Namaskar to everybody. Uh, it's overwhelming to be a part of this convocation. Always is overwhelming. But to sit at home so far away in Bangalore and to talk to you using technology, yes, of course, it is surprising and overwhelming. But I wish we were there together. All our teachers are here. And so it's just appropriate that I start by invoking and prostrating before the Supreme Teacher, the Teacher of Teachers. So please allow me to invoke Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyaadhilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Satgurum Tam Namami Satgurum Tam Namami Satgurum Tam Namami. In English, the rough translation for those of you who would like to know, the one who is the bliss of Brahman, the one who is supreme happiness and who is knowledge absolute, the one who has no duality, who is expansive like the sky and is the goal indicated in the great Mahavakyas of the Upanishads like Tattvamasi, the only one, pure, unchanging, who is the witness of all, the one who embodies the three gunas of sattva, rajas, and tamas. To that supreme entity, I prostrate myself and bow down to you. And I invoke the presence of the supreme entity. It's such a special day for all of us, especially for all the students. Respected Chief Guest Sri Krishnamurti Subramaniam, distinguished and honorable guests, our dear graduating students, their families, Director Professor Shubir Bhattacharya, deans, program chairs, our loved and respected faculty colleagues, dear staff members, and the IIM Calcutta community. My pranams to all of you. My dear graduating class, today you graduate from IIM Calcutta and enter the world of professionals. All your hard work and toil is being recognized and culminating in your becoming the newest member of the family of the IIM Calcutta alumni. An incredible distinction and a coveted privilege. Please accept my heartfelt congratulations and admiration for all of you. You are the best of this nation, and today is your day. Ideally, we should have been at our beautiful campus in Joka, celebrating your happiness together in person. This ongoing pandemic is unprecedented. The second wave is testing our resolve even more fiercely. By now, hopefully it should be clear to all of us that each one of us, you and me, is the front line of defense against this pandemic. It is our individual and collective responsibility to keep our community safe by exercising civic responsibility and social discipline through exercising self-discipline. It was in keeping with this spirit that this convocation is being held in the virtual non-physical format. I must convey my gratitude to all of you for accepting this. My thoughts and reflections that I wish to share with you today are nothing new. These thoughts continue to add much needed perspective to my life. It is in the belief that these thoughts may also add perspective to your lives and that good things must be shared and therefore can be repeated, that I allow myself the privilege to speak from my heart. This pandemic is having immense immediate implications for economies and businesses. All of us know that. And so I allowed myself to contemplate on the future. I'm sure all of you did too. So some of the questions that come to my heart are, what is it doing to economic inequality? Has it opened our hearts, mine, yours, all of us? Do we feel this inequality? I wondered what kind of resources would be required if each and every human being on this planet was to claim the average living standard of a citizen of the developed nations. I even wondered, is this even possible in a finite world? Today we have with us one of our own, an IIM Calcutta alumnus, Professor Krishnamurthy Subramaniam. He is presently at the helm of economic affairs of our nation as the Chief Economic Advisor. Thank you, Professor Krishnamurthy, for accepting our invitation to be our chief guest today. It is in his presence, and it is his presence here that encourages me to further wonder, what role does human greed play in economic, financial, and social problems? Is this focus of ours and the need for perpetual growth of GDP is it driven by human greed? In the garb of globalization, has there been unbridled individualism? GDP of nations being fueled by consumerism to support a lifestyle as against a life? Can our demand be less greedy and the supply be more broad-based with more equitable distribution of wealth and resources over the entire supporting business ecosystem? With technology and the networked world breaking down silos in society, will organizations be forced to collaborate and not just compete? And therefore, closing the loop on my own thoughts by asking the fundamental question, is competition driven by greed? These are difficult questions for anyone to answer. And in your lifetime, they will probably take on critical dimensions. I wondered if you would be happy by my just posing questions, but quickly reminded myself that as chairperson of the board, I'm traditionally expected to say something. And I struggled on this, dear students, colleagues. So therefore, let me admit, it would be correct on my part to admit that at best, I can share some of my own experiences and the learnings based on those experiences, and which you may accept or discount at a discount rate of your own choice. In this new networked world, beyond the functions and domains of my own specialization, I progressively felt the need to equip myself with some very important skills. The first, to be effective, I felt the need to have the ability to create new networks of partnerships for my organizations so that they may be sustainable, scalable, but most importantly, survive disruptions and failures. Number two, I had to be comfortable in comprehending the impact of data, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. Number three, culturally, I learned to accept multi-stakeholder networks and have a mindset for collaboration. This is the only way I could hope to overcome the complexity and interconnectedness across sectors. And fourth, ability to respect diversity and display empathy were key to building personal credibility. I found that personal credibility is now a non-negotiable attribute if you have to lead people. I don't mean if you want to lead people, but if you are in a position, trust in it to lead people, personal credibility is non-negotiable. So I posed to myself, what can you do with what you have learned? All of you have come with flying colors to such a premier program. And I was wondering, what is it that you can do with what you have learned? And that made me think, and I wanted to share, while knowing is important, all knowledge, whatever you have, refers to what we have learned. Once we learn it, we store it in our memory and can access it at our will. Therefore, by definition, knowledge is always of the past, and hence it relies heavily on facts and theoretical frameworks. It is humanly impossible to know everything. Is therefore leadership about successfully managing unfamiliar situations? I think it is. Ask yourself, why do different leaders see the same problem in different ways? Why do some succeed and some fail miserably? Let me share with you my observations, and I should not claim that they are wholly correct. Please use them if you feel attracted and motivated to explore them. In your professional as also personal life, you will encounter many battles as I have. They are all in one way or the other leadership battles. The most crucial will be those which are unequal battles. When I say unequal, I mean unequal assets, unequal power, unequal influence, etc., etc. In such battles, it has been my experience, the two most important qualities that helped me progress did not allow me to get bogged down. I continued to progress when faced with such an unequal battle, was to be brave and fearless. The Hindi word for that is shaurya, and to be patient. The Hindi word for that is dhairya. So shaurya and dhairya. These two qualities helped me progress. Most such battles are lost due to impatience. Your own strength of character and intelligence, the Hindi word for intelligence, discriminatory intelligence is vivek, will give you the willpower that is needed to endure such battles. And finally, you will need to have on your side truth, humility, modesty, and selflessness. Truth is satya. Humility and modesty can be translated into Hindi to be shilta, vinamrata. Selflessness typically is niswartha. But here I will use the unusual meaning of selflessness, which is doing good for others. Just it's beyond niswartha. And the word for that is parhit. Now, to make these qualities your own, your very own, it requires something which probably nobody teaches us, experience probably teaches us. Our scriptures definitely teach us. So it requires sadhana, which can be loosely translated in English as deep, introspective, disciplined, relentless, long duration study. It's called Dirghakal Nairantarya Abhyas. So if you have these qualities, there's a very high probability that you will not lose these unequal battles of life. Battles which are, as I like to call it, a battle between sadhana versus sadhan. People who have assets, power, influence, these are sadhan. But you have sadhana. And the battle between sadhana versus sadhan is always won by those who have sadhana on their side. This has been my experience. I would also like to share with you a very powerful Sanskrit shloka which was shared to me by each one of us. The first teachers are the parents. My father, who was a professor at IIM Ahmedabad and retired as a professor at IIM Ahmedabad, taught me this when I first got a job, and was the first time I took on the responsibility of a CEO of a multinational company. And I had gone to him and I said, I do not have experience or formal education in management, and what would you like to say? Any nugget that you'd like to share with me? And he just shared this one thing with me. And in Sanskrit, it goes, Amangalam aksharam nasti, nasti moolam anaushadham, ayogyaha purusho nasti, yojakas tatra durlabhaha. The English translation for this loosely is, there is no letter which is not auspicious. There is no root which does not have medicinal property. There is no person who is thoroughly useless, but rare is the one who knows how to properly use and manage them. So if you're still with me till now, then I'm going to go ahead and take the risk of requesting you all that from this point on in your life, please pay attention to the development of the most important management skills, that of humanity. Some bit of it I shared with you briefly. It is these skills that will equip you to work in the gap between what you know and what your environment will expect from you. You remember I said leadership is about managing unfamiliar situations. So you have some knowledge, but your environment expects something more. And the gap between your knowledge and what the environment expects, that when you have to operate in that gap, it is these skills of humanity that will come to your help. Remember this and build on this. This is not something that is regularly taught. in the pedagogical classes of our institutes. Hopefully someday when your children are at this institute or maybe earlier, we could look at how to bring these systems back into our fold. It was there historically in our heritage, it's been there, the Guru Shishya system. That's where this was taught. But for this to happen, for these qualities to become yours, for you to be able to work in that gap, for that to happen, one of the critical things I realized in my own life was that, management teaches us to have vision for our organizations. But do we have a vision for our own life? So you must have a vision for your own life. And let me be a little bit more elaborate here, not just goals for your life. And what is the difference between a goal for life and a vision for life? Well, let me articulate this for you because it took me some time to understand this. I may be wrong, but as I said, you can discount it at whatever rate you want. So for me, your actions that do good through you, but not for you, would be what I would define as a vision worthy for your life. In the pursuit of such a vision, have the courage to make mistakes. A mistake that makes you humble is better than an achievement that makes you arrogant. Let me change gears a little bit here. Very quickly, you all will be leaders of your own families. But today, I want to share with you my thoughts on our parents. A parent-child relationship is divine, and at any age in your life, it is going to remain divine. And they gave us life. They therefore deserve that stature throughout our lives. Over the past few years, I've had the luxury to spend time with my own aged parents. My father is 93 plus and mother is 91 plus. And so I probably tilt towards a wisdom that all elders uncannily start exhibiting. I'm talking about wisdom, not knowledge. Something unequivocally makes them realize how little we know. Or if I was to put it more bluntly, that the universe does not need the sanction of our beliefs to function. It is as if they were acknowledging the limitations of human knowledge. I have seen this upfront personally when I deal with my parents. As my parents see the end of the runway coming closer, I notice their wisdom expanding beyond the realms of logic and thought. As I serve them, the arrogance of my own logical brain questions their approach. But astonishingly, of late, I'm now acutely aware of how limiting are both human logic as well as human thought. Both tend to narrow our existence down to our own individual self, my knowledge, myself, my thoughts. We narrow our existence down to the individual self. But I also notice that as the physical body starts surrendering, especially in the elder people, where the physical body is no more able to support them, and so they start surrendering, they start operating more and more from their hearts. It is this operating from the heart that allows their existence to expand so far beyond the puny limits of their own physical selves. This therefore made me wonder, are they being prepared to merge with the infinite? The awareness that permeates everything? This made me further wonder, can the finite me ever comprehend the infinite? Is it possible? After all, I'm a finite product, severely limited by what I perceive through my five senses. Our lives is whatever we do with the five senses. And some of your engineers, some of your scientists, please reflect on what I'm saying. You are what your five senses tells you. So I'm severely limited by my five senses, and which, as I have come to realize from studying science, cannot be trusted. I seriously cannot trust my senses. We see the sun setting and rising every day, but from science that this is far from the reality. So what is real? I question that to myself. Is there such a thing as real? Is there such a thing as reality? Therefore, does anything that is unchanging deserve to be defined as real? Is that reality? Such an unchanging reality is probably not a thing, nothing, no thing. So we are the only species that has, in its arrogance of our logic and our knowledge, forgotten our place as just another inhabitant of nature. Please invest your time to be in closer connection with nature. Finally, before I stop, the world will celebrate your razor sharp intelligence, your being global, your being global citizens, your being tech savvy, etc., etc., etc. The world may celebrate you by putting you on a list of the most powerful persons or the most influential persons. This is what most business magazines do. You would have seen it. But I would feel deep satisfaction if someday, if you were to strive and try to expand your heart and learn to operate also from your heart. I'm not saying you should not operate from your mind and intellect, but start learning to operate also from your heart. And as a result, the day when the world celebrates you by recognizing you among the most loved and respected persons, that would be such a deep satisfaction for me. Prayers for your good health and safety of your loved ones and you always, every one of you. Have a beautiful life, every one of you. And forgive me if I strayed a little bit from the normal management oriented convocation talks. I struggled with this, but I thought that it's important that I should share what's in my heart. These are things which I was able to gather through my life's experiences. And thank you for your patience for listening me out. Have a beautiful life, every one of you, and Jai Hind.